people are constantly raising the bar.
Sacrifices need to be made.
What would you guys say are your biggest weaknesses?
You are your enemy right now.
It's success of life.
Just a fucking podcast.
My roots come from Jeff Alberts, which is the Godfather himself. And if you are familiar with him, man, I take a really simple approach in the bodybuilding, whereas I guess it's really easy. There's a lot of science and a lot of stuff out there, but what you find is even some of the most versed people that are really, even like Eric and stuff, what you'll find is that it's a lot of practicality, man. When it comes down to it. So I'm a pretty simple guy, man. I'm one of the gritty ones, man, that just get in there and get it done.
Sweet.
And I guess something that is a little unorthodox about it is powerlifting is starting to grow a whole lot. When I got with 3DMJ, it was primarily for bodybuilding. I didn't even have much of a knowledge, and my programming was kind of structured. It had a very similar approach to power building. And it really helped me transition into doing powerlifting, man, versus some of the more bodybuilding type accessory type programmings where it's not much compound lift. So a lot of the 3DMJ athletes and a lot of the guys with 3DMJ really push the compound lifts more than a lot of the coaches that I've ran into that strictly do bodybuilding programming. So that's a little unorthodox, but
I think it's something I'd really like to touch on because I think a lot of people neglect getting heavy if you're a bodybuilder, and if they're a powerlifter, they don't do. To my knowledge, I don't know much about powerlifting, but
right. I saw that you also you mess with the compound lifts, man.
Yeah,
so
I love
that's
that.
always a good thing.
I'm still like super like I've like I think I've done well like bodybuilding wise, but powerlifting wise or like lifting wise, I'm still weak as fuck. But the goal is just to like put on mass, get fat as fuck, like
right. But see, that's where you want to go, building that base, man.
Yeah, so, I'm just trying to like get
and
strong because how many strong
right,
people
and a lot of
so
people
small.
Right, and that's the thing, and a lot of people think that they can just jump into let's say just squat, deadlift, and bench, and really if you don't have a good a bodybuilding base. You're really gonna run right into a brick wall, man, because you really have to build your base up. So it's kind of, I always say, as different as the two sports is, they really go hand in hand. So
it's definitely like I think they're like, it's almost like, it's even kind of different. It's like long distance running and short distance running. It's kind of similar, but I feel like it's way different because you can't be a marathon runner and a sprinter. But you can be a powerlifter and a bodybuilder. It's kind of like that. How did you get started? What made you start with bodybuilding?
All right. So basically what got me into bodybuilding, I'll be honest with you, the internet wave, the social media wave started. I had kind of got introduced to Matt Ogus through the internet. And through Matt, he kind of, it seemed like he was the first person kind of bringing in the whole structure with macros, structure, consistency, stuff like that. And it just seemed like it made so much more sense than a lot of the magazines that we used to resort to years ago, So, he had shouted out 3DMJ and I looked into it and it just was the perfect fit, man. It was the perfect fit for me, man. And from there, I'll be honest with you, I've been training now for about 16 years straight, but it never seemed like I was progressing at the rate that I should be. And once I got with 3DMJ, man, that's where I really started feeling, getting the structure and really, seeing the progress that I did. And that's really what got me into bodybuilding, other than the fact that I was sitting there doing high intensity cardio 5 times out of the week and doing 12 to 15 reps hypertrophy. And I was watching the Olympics one year, and they had a wrestler, and I was like, holy shit, like, I'm doing all this work, and this guy looks so 3D, and just so the muscle bellies are so massive, and I'm like, I had genetically, I had good muscle bellies, but I just felt like I hadn't tapped into my true potential. So that's, once I got with 3DMJ, that kind of, I don't feel like I'm quite there yet, but I've definitely made
I reckon
progress,
you're pretty damn close, like, if you walked into my gym, people would be like, "Holy fuck," because my gym, like, it's not very bodybuildy. It's mainly like older people. I'm the closest thing to a bodybuilder in my gym, so it's like, yeah, like if you walked into my gym, it would be like, "Oh my god, wow," like people would be like, "Holy shit!"
Oh, man.
And then like, how do you transition the whole like bodybuilding thing into powerlifting? And do you think like that it's an easy transition or a good transition for both sports? Like, do you think it sort of feeds both sports?
Okay, so I do think that, I guess to answer the last part was, do I think it is a good transition? I definitely think it's a good transition. Easy. The interesting thing was that I thought it would be easy because going into the first week of a powerlifting phase was kind of just building the base. So it was kind of very similar to a bodybuilding programming, except for the volume seemed to be a lot less. So it just seemed to be a very easy week. But what you'll find in powerlifting is as you get closer to your powerlifting meet, you start peaking. And when you peak, the fatigue goes out the roof, man. And what you thought was something, I'm doing more squatting. I'm squatting, say I was squatting 2 times a week through bodybuilding programming, if 2 times a week, because some people cut it out. It goes to 3 times a week, deadlifting sometimes 2 times a week with an accessory. So it gets really taxing, man. But I do think that it can benefit. I think that, I plan to return to bodybuilding really soon. And I really think that I've built a stronger base.
I think your base is strong as fuck now because it's like
right.
Wait. When you say base, do you mean strength base? Do you mean muscle belly base? What do you mean by that?
So I say strength base, but I feel like a strength base is a direct. I think the strength base and the muscle base kind of are direct towards each other. So I feel like with the strength increase, there's a potential that I have been able to sustain more muscle. And a lot of people, when you get into a bodybuilding prep, the biggest thing is to maintain as much strength that you have put on during that investment period, during that building period. So this has definitely been an off season in which, I guess in terms of, the amount of volume that I've moved, I haven't ever moved this much volume. So, I've never moved this much volume in any of my compounds for this long of a period of time. So I expect that when I go into my bodybuilding phase that,
you can just increase the volume.
The base will be stronger, and I can increase the volume, but also be moving loads a lot heavier while in prep. Versus the last time I was in a prep. So say I'll give you an example. The last time that I was in a prep, let's say 1 week out from my show, I might have been squatting, let's say 335 pounds for reps of 8. I'm thinking that the base that I've built now that, maybe a week, 2 weeks out, I could potentially be still above 405 pounds, maybe 385, 395, which that was a shot in the dark back then. So, giving myself that time away and really just focusing on some of those big lifts and, being in a maintenance caloric, intake is just really helped. So I think that I'm hoping, I'm really hoping that there is a good carryover when I do enter back into bodybuilding. So that's my take on it, man.
How long have you been, ever since you last went into like a deep prep, how long has it been and how long have you been in the sort of, I guess, investment or surplus or maintenance sort of phase?
All right, so this is that's pretty interesting, man, because I'll tell you the story how that went. I'm very competitive, man, and I just enjoyed it. I just enjoyed the whole, I'm one of those guys that, put me in a gym, give me something to, and I just love it, man. So after the World Championship in 2016 with the WNBF, which, it didn't quite go my way. I had done a show prior to that a week before, and I got third in the lightweight division, and we were expecting to kind of make a good run on that show with Jeff Alberts being my main coach. And it didn't go too well, but, I didn't let it get me down. And about a week after that show, I was already ready to hop in a short off season and
Yeah.
maybe a 6-month off season and get back on the stage.
Yeah.
And Jeff Alberts and he's been coaching me now for, let's see, since 2013,
Yeah.
early 2013. And he was all on board with it. And he said, you know what, Vernon, you've been grinding, just going at it. You've been in a deficit. We've had short surpluses. He
Yeah.
just said, it's in your best interest, and I'm begging you to take a year off.
Yeah.
So that's when I said,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm going to go a full year into a surplus.
Yeah.
And, he was right. He was absolutely right, because I started feeling, strength just went out the roof. I wasn't dealing with aches. Everything was just flowing as it could. And, for the longest, people were saying, man, you're really strong. Like you said, strong as fuck, man. So it's like, are you a power lifter? And I actually was like, I'm not a power lifter.
Yeah.
Never tried it. Didn't know that much about it. And I ran into a guy in my gym here locally, Johnny Candido, and he's pretty versed in the powerlifting. He's actually made it to the IPF Worlds in 2016, and he knows Alberto really well. So they had talked a few times, and he convinced me into getting into the powerlifting. So I gave it a shot, and it just seemed like it just really flowed with the programming that the structure I was already familiar with 3DMJ. So it just made sense, man. It felt like a natural transition, and it kind of just gave me, a breath of fresh air, and it's actually made me. I'm really excited about doing it, but it excites me that much more to get back into my roots, and my roots is bodybuilding, man. So
do you think it's kind of like,
it's pretty cool?
How with bodybuilding we all put emphasis on we put emphasis on compounds, but we also put a lot of emphasis on the accessories. Do you think coming from bodybuilding has helped you actually like respect the accessories, and like how do you implement accessories? I'm talking stuff like flies, curls, etc. In your training now when you are doing sort of powerlifting training.
So it's pretty interesting because, and this is how I feel about it. I feel like in bodybuilding, a lot of the accessories are more so catered to, building, tapping into, I guess hitting your delts, not for a physical strength reason, but more for a cosmetic reason, saying, you have lagging areas. Okay, so you kind of want to up the volume in these accessories to kind of bring out those lagging areas. Whereas in powerlifting, you're not concerned. Most people, because I have a bodybuilding background, so I still like the aesthetic part of it. But most people, when you're doing accessories, the accessories are only to see if there's some kind of carryover into the compound. So, you might be doing a close grip bench press, and that is to develop tricep strength, and that is to see if it's going to increase your bench press more. And if it's not going to increase your bench press, then to a degree, it's almost not as necessary. You kind of have to find what works. Versus in bodybuilding, a close grip bench press, if it is more comfortable, if it's something that, feels like it's something that's not affecting the joints, and it's something that you can get through while you're cutting, and it's also giving you movement in your triceps, and it's just something that, that seems to work better for that cosmetically. So the difference is, the accessories in bodybuilding for me feels like it's more so of a cosmetic thing. Of course it is. And although it's cosmetic, you are able to develop that strength, which does have a carryover to powerlifting. But powerlifting is one of those things where you might have one or two accessories, if that many, if it has a carryover. And if it doesn't, then it might really be, for instance, in bodybuilding prep, I used to do incline barbell bench press all the time, and I'd gotten pretty strong with it. But it didn't really have a carryover into my bench press. So, these last 6-7 months, I haven't really been using that much. But I've been bench pressing a whole lot more. So
how do you figure out when, when it comes to the three big lifts, how do you sort of, because obviously with powerlifting, the volume that you're doing is quite intense volume. It's not like some very easy volume. How do you know?
That's correct.
How can you tell when your body is kind of bro, I need a rest? How do you? What's your gauges for that? And how do you know? And where do you how do you implement that?
I'll be honest with you, man. That shit almost every week. You feel
Yeah.
You damn near go in. I mean, literally, I'm today's Sunday for me here. So going into Monday, we're going into lower first, and
Yeah.
I mean, as of right now, I feel like I'm literally telling myself, like, bro, like, man, this shit is crazy, man. You know what I mean? But it's just one of those things where you have to pay attention to the small things,
Yeah.
which, just like, a lot of people think that people go to powerlifting because they don't like to diet. They don't like, but realistically, man, if you have to be drinking your water, you having to be doing your mobility work. You have to do all these things. You have to, you can't go into a block saying that, man, I didn't hit macros all week. I've just been eating like shit all week. You have to dot your I's and cross your T's so that your performance will be at its best.
Yeah.
So, there's still deloads in the phases that I do versus my bodybuilding programming was very linear. It was usually 3 weeks of just straight up, where you're doing small increment increases in weight, and then on the 4th week you deload, and then you reset. Powerlifting is a little bit different. Sometimes your deload might come in the form of 2 days out of the week in week 1, and it's just enough of a taper so that you can increase the volume going into, let's say, your 3rd week into the phase to build up that fatigue. And a lot of the time, the fatigue that you build up is just enough fatigue in order for you to, actually progress into what they call a peak phase. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting, man. And I'm still learning. Yeah. And that's been always the greatest thing about having 3DMJ behind me, man, because it's a lot like, I've always been one of those gritty lifters, kind of old school, just get in the gym and just get shit done. But and that's why me and Jeff is my primary coach with 3DMJ. Jeff is the one that I've had the most contact with, and he kind of has that old fashioned just get straight to it mentality. Yeah. But it's so much information nowadays that you can get. And I always tell people, don't be stubborn to it, man. Take everything and use it. Obviously you have to filter the bullshit from the good shit, but there's something to be learned from all of it. You know what I mean? So
I think even the bullshit you could sort of like figure out, like, okay, obviously someone's trying to sell shit there, and like you can kind of like for the first probably like year of lifting, I didn't have a fucking clue what I was consuming. Right. Like I couldn't tell the difference between crap and like actual legitimate like information. And ever since I found people like 3DMJ, like Revive Stronger, like Josh Bridgman, AJ Morris, like all those sort of people, I've realized, oh wow, like all the information is there, like and it goes incredibly in depth, and it's like
that's correct. And I always tell people too, you got to use the information, man, but don't get super consumed with it either, because what you'll find is some people, like I said, there's some people that will get so consumed with the information that the basics, the bare minimum, as a beginner is to get in there, and do the work. They start that starts getting overseen.
Definitely.
Everybody had to start from something. Just like you said, when you got in there, you didn't really know what the hell you were doing. Yeah. But you were there. You were you were building the foundation, and then as you got exposed and got more, exposed to what was going on, you were able to refine that. So I guarantee you, when you first got in there, there's things that you learned from that you can still either look back and say, man, I'm happy I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah. Or, this is something that I've learned, so it all works. It all works hand in hand, man.
I found my thing was I thought I knew more than I did, and I thought I was more advanced than I was. Like, even like a year and a half into lifting, I thought I was near my genetic peak. Like, just some dumb shit like that. And oh my god, I cringe now, but it's like, oh fuck's sake. Oh, right. God. But then basically, like, I think my thing was I didn't have the basics down. I definitely didn't have them down because I didn't. I wasn't reaching like a basic caloric surplus. Like, and this, like, my goal was always just to gain weight.
Okay.
Like, yeah. And I just didn't have the basics down. I didn't have, and ever since recently, I've started like tracking my training, like eating in a surplus consistently, and like now I've finally seen gains again after like I had like a whole year where I just plateaued hard, just because I was like,
really?
Yeah, I just wasn't eating enough because I find it so hard to gain weight, right? It's
And
just like,
how did you feel about that hard plateau?
the hard plateau, I still enjoyed the lifting, right? Like I could not go. I was never the guy who'd like, oh, I just want to go with my friends and get big. You know how, like in high school, a lot
Right.
of people just want to go to, like all their friends go to the gym. But
Yeah.
for me, it's probably more similar to you, where it's more like, I just love it. Like,
Yeah.
it's sort of like, I used to be quite into my running, but
Okay.
like my distance running, and that's definitely what I'm built for, like 100%. But like lifting is just, I just love lifting, but running training, I'm just like, fuck this. Like, I don't want to run for
Right.
2 hours, feel shit for
Yeah.
the rest of the night, and then like not see any aesthetic changes, not see.
Absolutely.
And-
And to be, the first year that I got into bodybuilding, I used to love to go to the track, and I used to run the track, do sprints, do tire jumps, tire flips, bleachers. And I'll be honest with you, right now I'm in the off season and I'm hovering between 185 pounds to 190 pounds,
Yeah.
5'6".
Yeah.
And there was a point in my tenure that I was around, I was around 165, 175 pounds,
Yeah.
not as lean as I am now.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get over that wall. And I remember Jeff telling me, like, man, you have the potential to be a great bodybuilder. You have the symmetry, you have the bellies, you have the genetics, you know, but you have to decide how far you want to go.
Yeah.
How far do you want to go in this? Because if you do, then there's certain things that you're going to have to let go of. And, I enjoyed it, but I loved going to the gym even more. And I honestly was hitting a brick wall. I was at a plateau that I could not get that strength because basically I was just, I would be in a surplus. I would go burn all those calories and all that energy.
Yeah.
And then I would try to recomp for it with more food. And it was just, it was just a revolving door. It just wasn't, it wasn't working for me, man. So I can definitely, and that's a tough one for me too, because, being where I'm at right now, I've gotten to to the biggest stage in the natural bodybuilding circuit, and I haven't quite accomplished the goals that I want in that. And I, being that this is my first year, I'm considered a newbie in powerlifting, and I've kind of accomplished some big things.
Well, holding like
that's
a deadlift record in your first year, that's nothing to like laugh at. That's serious shit. Like,
I appreciate it, man.
Like,
and and it's crazy because it's the toughest thing. The toughest thing about it is I know that I'm not finished with what I want to accomplish in bodybuilding, and I have an itch for it. Being away from it has made me want to get back to it that much. It's much, even with all the fun that I'm having in the powerlifting, and I guess the success, you would say, if you will. But it's kind of it's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and you kind of just have to find that balance because I tell myself, well, if I take 2 more years off, I could potentially get that much stronger and be at the highest level, if not the highest level in powerlifting. Or if I go get out of it and get in a deficit, the thing about being in a caloric deficit for that long, and my preps usually consist of about, I'll be honest with you, my preps are usually between 30 to 27 weeks of a straight deficit, man. And you lose a lot of leverage. I guess you could call it strength, but you lose a lot of leverage, man. And you pretty much, when you get out of that deficit, you pretty much have to learn how to be strong all over again, man.
Do you feel like your loads,
once you get,
how fast do your loads sort of fly back up after you come out of a prep deficit? How fast
so
do the
my
weights you
loads,
can lift sort of go back up?
The loads go up pretty fast. I'm a little unique with that. Is I don't reverse diet. I've never reversed diet.
Can you explain what that is quickly?
Well, basically, reverse diet is it's kind of where you slowly work your caloric. You work yourself back up to maintenance, man. Being that if you're at a deficit, you'll slowly some people take over a period of 8 to 12 weeks where they slowly work themselves up back to maintenance. Now, the issue with that is when you're depleted and you're in a caloric deficit for so long, your body is, it's drained of so many things, man. And it's not. And what I do is I go straight into a recovery diet, and 3DMJ elaborates more on that. You know, a recovery diet is basically, you know, giving your body what it needs when it needs it. Meaning that, you know, you could walk your calories slowly up and your body's never really going to be satisfied. Or you can just say, look, I'm going to give my body what it needs. But the thing is, you have to know what that cutting point is. You have to be able to separate recovery from binging, because binging is where you get into a food coma, you become sick, you can't even function right. But recovery is saying, I am going to give my body as much calories as it asks for, but I'm going to stop once I feel like I've reached that point.
How do you figure out where that point is? Because, like, for myself, I hate the word hard gainer, right? I hate it. But, like, I started off weighing, like, 52 kilos. Like, I was a tiny little cunt. Like, my God. But then basically, like, now I'm getting to the point where if I eat enough food, if I can accomplish that in the day, I'll feel the glycogen. Like, I'll just feel full, right? Is it sort of similar to that? How you would know on after comp day, you would sort of know, hey, this is enough, this is not enough, etc.
Well, I would say that it took me competing, and it took me messing all the shit up and getting sick. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it took me fucking it all up to figure it out. You know, so definitely the first prep coming out of it, overeating, food coma, and then you think that, okay, 1 week I'm just going to do a shit ton of cardio, then I'm going to go back at a deficit calorie because I feel bloated, and I'm going to work my way up. But what happens is 6 months later, you still feel like shit. You think that you look like shit. Everything is just wrong. So that mistake, you know, helped me, you know, into the next season saying, okay, we're not going to do it that way. And you do it for a couple times. You have a couple in-season, off-seasons, or let's just say you have a cut and a recovery period. You start realizing where your body's sweet spot is as far as weight goes. And once you familiarize yourself with the macros that it takes to get there, then you're like, okay, I compete easily shredded at about 165. There's no need for me to binge and get up to 200 pounds. I mean, I feel like the most functional I am is between the 180 and the 190 range. I feel like aesthetically, I still have that intact. I feel like performance is increasing. I feel like everything is doing as it should. So I don't feel like I need to hover, you know, 10 pounds over stage weight. I feel like 25 to 30 pounds is good for me. You know, now that varies for every person. And once you realize that, and it takes time, because for me, I'll give you an example. My off season macros usually look somewhere around about 50 fat to about 250 to 300 carbs, so about 200 to 250 grams of protein. Now you have guys out there, for like Alberto Nunez, for example. His off season consists of sometimes I want to say he said somewhere around the 400 carbs a day. And you know, we're around the same age. You know, we have a little different build, but it just goes to show that, you know, you have to really understand how to tune your body, because everybody's body responds to food differently. And once you know, and that just comes with experience and time, you know.
And you just sort of had to figure out what works for you, like, and then sort of gauge that and use that over time. Right.
And the way you figure that out is having that structure and keeping some kind of track. And that's not always easy. But if you just, you know, if you have some kind of track and something that you are documenting, you know, how much macros you're eating a day, what your weight is, you'll kind of be able to have something that you can reference back to and look at and say, okay, this is, and then after a while, you do it for so long, you become goddamn like Neo in the Matrix. You see everything in code, man. You know
it just sort of like it works.
It just works. You know. So
could we touch on like the choice to stay natural, because that's like for especially with 3DMJ, that's sort of a lot of I think that I really like about them. They don't like shove it in your face that like, hey, we're natural, but it's sort of like Eric he's been doing these posts on Instagram, right, where it's sort of like, hey, this is before steroids were invented. And he sort of shows you physiques from the past that like steroids weren't around then, so these physiques are attainable naturally, right? And then sort of trying to dispel the the sort of everyone's on steroids whole thing, like dispelled that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people jump straight to steroids and without even realizing that there are a lot of things that you need to be able to control before steroids can be the only other thing that you can do. And
Right.
what guides your choice to stay natural? Do you think you'll stay natural forever? And like, how did you make that choice and why?
Okay. So the reason that you stay natural, and I definitely know that I'll stay natural forever. And it kind of just goes back to, it's just, I'm one of those guys that the simplicity of it, you know, for me, this is a lifestyle. This is something that I'm going to be doing for a long time. And I want it to be something that feels as simple as waking up and brushing your teeth. Now I know you know it's not, because like I said, I have a lower body training tomorrow, and you know, the thought of it is just like, holy shit. But I know that once I get that out of my system, you know, I know that that's where I need to be. I know that that's what I want to do. And for me, to be honest with you, when I got into bodybuilding and everything like that, I was one of the naive ones that I had no idea. You know, believe it or not, I knew all about Arnold and everything, but I had no idea that there was a enhanced side and a non-enhanced side. I just thought you get in and you get it done, you know. So once I got in and I started hearing, you know, because then I was getting the accusations of, hey man, are you not natural? And I guess, you know, when they say that, it's kind of a compliment, because you kind of know what you're doing.
One of my goals, one of my like bodybuilding goals is to get accused of being on steroids. That's the goal.
So, you know, and that's when I had to kind of understand, like, what is the difference, and you know, and I got burst on it and stuff. So my choice, really my choice was just that, you know, I'm in it for the health, you know, I'm in it for the long run, and I feel like it's just something, it's something that, you know, makes it, to me, it's just it makes it just so much more complex as far as, you know, you just have to, it's so much other variables that you have to, you know, account for. And, you know, honestly, I just have way too much going on in my life. And I just feel like, I really feel like a lot of the things are obtainable, you know. I think that you can obtain just as much, if not more, natural. And, you know, and it's just something that I'm proud of. And it's just the route that I stick with, you know. So I really don't see myself going over to the other side, because it just, and honestly, you know, I don't know how it is on your side, but you know, you hear a lot of the young guys, and they're doing this and they're doing that. And the crazy thing is it doesn't seem to make that much of a difference. But I always tell myself, well, if they would have just focused on building a base and not, you know, because they want the results right now. And it's never been like that. You know, if you really sit down with some of these naturals that's been doing it for a while, and you find out where they started, you know, and that's why I kind of enjoy the Transformation Tuesdays and stuff, you know, because it's like, shit, if you really think, you know, even when you're at home doing push-ups and stuff, say in grade school or whatever it is, and you think you're jacked as shit, and you look back at a picture from 6 years before, you're like, man, I wasn't shit, you know. So people don't realize how much time it takes. And
like realize how, you know, little changes really do add up. How
little changes really add up. So for me, it was pretty, it's a no-brainer for me, because it's just, I feel like I'm capable of doing a lot natural, and I don't feel like, you know, I enjoy that chase. You know, I don't feel like I'll ever get tired of that chase.
I feel like it's not a different sport, but I feel like it's almost a different sport. Like,
and I agree with you. I feel like the same thing. I feel like, even I'll give you an example in powerlifting. You know, even in powerlifting, I feel like, you know, because they have a non-tested side. And you know, you hear stories and stuff like that, and I've done, I've done 2 meets this year, and I'm going on my 3rd coming up in October, which is the big one. And I've got to watch some of the meets from the kind of the other side, the untested side, and it seems like, you know, this is something that I was told, is it seems like they'll just up the cycle of whatever they're taking,
Yeah.
and that is how
Instead
they
of like
peak.
upping the knowledge or upping the
Right,
form,
instead of upping the the knowledge and the as far as the programming goes, making the variables that make sense so that you can peak at your very best. They'll just up those, and to me that's a recipe for disaster, and that's why what you see excuse me, what you see in the non-tested side is that you see a lot of injuries and stuff versus on the natural side you see a whole lot less injuries because it's you're learning through the programming,
it's much slower, I think, but it's much
slower. Right. So that was basically my choice.
I definitely
it was
think
a pretty easy decision for me.
Yeah, like it's sort of black and white for you, like, and I think there's two great examples, right? There's this guy Josh Bridgman. You may know him. He's a UK bodybuilder. Basically, he's natural now, right? But he's just building. He's been building for like 6 years. He's done pretty well. I think he won the UK something. He won Diamond League something. I'm not sure. He competed in something, and he did pretty well. And he's built like a great base, right? And now basically he's like, if he's going to get on a cycle, he's already done all these years of great like knowledge, evidence-based lifting. And then if you compare that to someone who just like hops on a cycle because they want to get big for a holiday,
it's a big difference. And and that's how I am. I have friends, that choose to go that route. So I'm non-biased, but and that's how you know that I'm real open-minded because I have friends that choose to go that route, and it's still not even taboo or anything. It's not something that, okay, well, he's natural, so we're gonna not talk about it, or he's enhanced. It's they know. I'll give you an example. My gym, there's a lot of enhanced people, but they know, hey, that's the natty guy, and I know, hey, but it's all love. We go in there. Our training approach is quite different. We're aware of it, but we get it done. And it's just a different avenue because they like you said, they do have people that have built a great base and they decide to go that way. And I always tell people, there's a fork in the road, man, and you just have to be one with yourself. You have to know what it is that you want. And I just know that there's way more for me when I look at the big picture. There's way more pros in just staying natural versus the cons that I see. It's just so much stuff that you have to account for whenever you're going that route. And
things
for me, hell, I'm already getting accusations now. Hey, is he natty? Is he not? So it's like
when you look at your physique, it's like that's probably better than some dudes that are on steroids, and that's the thing.
You see that at times.
Like some of the, like it all depends. Like they could be on steroids, right? But they could have like a shite training approach, like.
Right.
That's the thing. It's like there's so many variables that I think that's why it's great to stay natty for ages, and then if you want to cycle, cool, like cycle.
Right.
But it's
right. Yeah. I don't judge any person, man. Yeah. It's their decision, man. Yeah. And but I just know for me, it's just it's a real easy decision, and it's something that I'm proud of, man. It's something that I'm proud of. It's an easy choice, and then I have my son, and he sees me. He's been to many of my shows. He sees me training and stuff, and it's something that I'm, like I said, I'm very transparent. So I don't ever want to tell him, hey, son, you take X amount of milligrams of this and this amount. I just want to tell him. I don't want to lead him down that route, man.
When it comes to being a father and also doing this sport, do you find that could have conflicts? Like, does it get hard? Like, is there areas where it's sort of like, okay, fuck, I can't train today because I need to take him to soccer or something, like stuff like that. Right.
Man, it gets tough. It gets tough. But honestly, I think that's something that I'm really proud of being part of 3DMJ for, is because this sport is, with the internet and everything else going on, there's a lot of things, man. There's a lot of, everybody's trying to be the next big thing. There's a lot going on, man. And but the one thing that 3DMJ, like you said, they've changed a lot of lives. They've made a lot of champions. They've done a lot of things. But they also are not, they're not always directly on the scene. They're not really loud about things. But one thing that they really have instilled in all of their athletes is just, the ability to find balance, man, because you can't be shit if you ain't got shit. Like, if you think that you won, if you win a title and you get a record, Texas deadlift record, but you come home to nothing, then it's almost like it's just a hollow. It's like a hollow award. So you just have to find,
So it'll feel good for a moment, but then like you get home and it's like, okay, who can I celebrate with?
And it's just like, who can I celebrate with? So you just have to know that there's always tomorrow, man. And in natural bodybuilding, you have to know that even more. The one thing that you'll notice is off seasons are quite longer in natural bodybuilding. Off seasons can be anywhere between 2 to 5 years. And you just have to know that not every day, if you miss a session because you had to go to a soccer game, or if you miss a session because you just didn't have the energy, there is going to always be that next day to pick up. So balance, it's always about, man, balance your life out, man. Balance your life out and make sure that everything is where it should be before you press forward, because it's just going to make the journey that much more sweet. Because I'm telling you, man, when you're in a prep and you've been dieting for 30 weeks, everything is just tough, and then you have nobody to go to, and that, it's hard, man. And I'll be honest with you, you build some of the closest relationships, and you learn so much about yourself when you are in those deep, dark moments, man. I mean, you really appreciate that time, or you really appreciate that your child saying, how much they look up to you and so on. So you really get those things. But if you just cut everything and everyone out of your life, it's
chase the record sort of thing.
It's a tough road, man. So you really got to find that balance. And I think that's something that Jeff, the whole 3DMJ family, they've really kind of helped instill that.
They really sort of like make you sort of realize, like, yes, we take this extremely seriously, but it's like,
they put that,
you need to have a life
at the top, right? They put that on just as much as making a great athlete. They put being an overall well-rounded person and balanced right there at the top of the list, man. Because you honestly can't have one without the other, man.
Like even AJ Morris, I think he's a great example, right? He takes
AJ is a great example.
He takes it so seriously, right? Like he's going to do everything in his power to be the best he can, but he's still, like, recently he went to Rome, like he went and had fun in Rome, like.
That's right.
Even the people who are taking it that seriously still go and relax. Like, they still go watch TV. They still go do shit.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, I was in Hawaii last week, and that was the first time in a long time that I didn't train. And anytime I travel, I usually find a gym, and we're training no matter where I go. And, I made a decision to not train, and I talked to my coach about it, and my coach backed me up on that. And it's crazy because you almost feel like you want to just strangle yourself and feel so guilty about not training. And you come back and you realize when you get back in the gym that was probably the best thing that you could have done. So
I find whenever I take a week off and then I come back, I feel amazing in the gym. Like, I feel so damn good.
Right. So
my joints are better. Like, my back feel like I have a whole, like, my wrists are kind of fucked, and then my back is kind of fucked. I have scoliosis, so same as Brad.
Oh, okay,
So, like, basically, managing that is basically like, when I take a week off, oh my god, when I go back, it feels so good.
Feels good.
It's just like the pump is like, goddamn, amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
How do you sort of work around and deal with things like injuries, or things that are wrong with your body, and you just have to sort of work around them?
So the biggest thing for me is just being aware of things. I've been lucky. I haven't had, with the amount of volume, with the amount of volume that I do, I'm pretty surprised that I haven't gotten injured. I'm not surprised, but it's just I lift a lot of volume, man, and it's been constant and consistent since 2012. But the way that I deal with it is just kind of just knowing your body, knowing when to take a deload, and outside of that, it's really just pretty simple. Just knowing when to take a deload, and also just to be honest with you, filming a lot of your lifts. I film I film a lot of my lifts, and people sometimes think, oh, it's vanity. And they have no idea how much that the filming that stuff is being used. It's just like I always say, it's like, man, I'm like a football player, American football, not soccer, not, like a football player, studying the film, man. So I'll go back and I will look at, okay, I was having issues in my adductors. I'm squatting. Okay, do I need to change my heels? Do I need to change my stance width? Am I sitting too far back in my hips? It's so many things that you can look at with film. So I feel like it's really important to film some of those sets, especially when you're doing the big compound moves. Especially like you said you have scoliosis and stuff. So there's a lot of things that you can get from looking at the film to say, okay, there's adjustments that you can make. And, and that's great that you lift and train, because a lot of people would have a case of scoliosis and say, well, this is the reason that I can't do this. This is the reason I can't.
And
but there is always ways
my
around
gears when people it's like, I think they should be lifting, as long as they learn how to do it properly and they learn how to do it safely, then I think it's so beneficial, because it sort of puts you in control instead of being scared of getting exercise. And it's like, you need to move, you just need to. I just think it's so damn beneficial.
Right. Yeah. So I commend you for that, man, because that's, like I said, interesting thing. I guess something that people don't know, and you said, and I didn't think about that, but in 2010, I actually had my leg crushed, and I couldn't walk for let's see, 8 months. It was supposed to be 2 years, but the doctor said that because my health was good and I was in such good shape that I recovered a lot quicker. So and I got it repaired. Fortunately I didn't have to put any metal in, but they called it the perfect break. But it's interesting because, in bodybuilding, my legs are considered one of my strengths. I have pretty good leg size and conditioning and stuff. And in powerlifting, I've been able to bring my squat up so high. And it's interesting because, a lot of people have no idea that, I almost lost my leg in 2010, so
that's the thing. It's
people, and that is another thing that kind of got me into bodybuilding is, I had that issue, and right after I got out of the hospital and everything, I was able to get back into the gym and train, and I actually saw myself progress. And it was kind of one of those things that the doctors were saying, hey, you're never going to be the same. It's going to take 2 years. And, I kind of wanted to, to prove them wrong, to be honest. And along with proving them wrong, I kind of found out, like, damn, I could actually be a pretty good damn bodybuilder, and that's when I kind of
opened your eyes to the fact that, okay, sick, I can do this, and I can do it well. And that's one thing that I think is
and that's right. And that's, if you look at Brad, I mean, you've seen x-rays of his spine, if you've seen any of his videos or anything, and I mean, and shit, he just did a powerlifting meet and he did damn good with scoliosis, so he's now qualified for Raw Nationals. So hopefully I'll see Brad at Raw Nationals, because I'll be there. That'd be good. I hadn't seen the 3D family in a while, man. We're all over the place, man.
I think it's
I'm in Texas. We're all over the place, man.
I think it's such a cool sort of group though, because it's I feel like the coaches, they have a different balance of what they've done and who they are and all that sort of thing. And then I think all the athletes sort of take it seriously, and then every single athlete that 3DMJ has sort of shown, and I've seen, wow, they're all doing things smart. It's all a very humble approach, and the things like Nunes right now, his investing, his huge. He's doing, how long is his bulk going for? He's doing a 5-year long bulk.
Oh
or something?
Man, he's doing a long bulk. He has some strength goals right now, man. So as a matter of fact, it's funny because he just reached out to me not too long ago, a few weeks, and he was like, man, you're killing it in powerlifting, but we still got some world championships to get in bodybuilding. So I was like, oh no, I'll be around, man.
I'll be there.
It's gonna be fun to get back to it, man. So it's gonna be good, man. But it's been a great journey. And another thing interesting, you said you're gonna be interviewing Eric. Eric is D1, the main man, 3DMJ, and Eric
Yeah.
is the one that I'm yet to meet in person.
Yeah.
Of course, Eric is all over
All the way in New
Europe
Zealand,
and
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, I think he just
but
went to Australia or something. Like I
Yeah,
don't know where he is in the world, but apparently I'm seeing him in Auckland, which is where I am. So
Yeah,
that'll be
yeah,
super.
he was-
I'm probably gonna fangirl because like I've loved their content for so long, and it's like
yeah,
ever since I've started lifting, I've heard Eric Helms. I heard his name dropped
Oh,
so many
yeah.
times, and this is
Oh,
why I
yeah,
love these
yeah.
podcasts because like you can talk to people like yourself, and you can discover all these little things that you like think and believe in, and I just love it. I think it's like
Right,
amazing
yes.
how this can exist.
Oh yeah, most definitely, man.
It's just like I just love it.
Oh yeah.
Could
So
we
yeah,
talk-
I'm hoping that. Go ahead.
Can we touch on like when you're prepping for a powerlifting meet or like getting ready for it? Because I have no clue how it works, right? Like I'm pure, everything I consume is bodybuilding. When you're prepping for a
Okay.
meet, what do you do differently in your training, in your eating, in your sleep recovery to like get yourself ready for those 9 big lifts?
Okay. So basically, the big difference between a powerlifting meet and I try to use a lot of my knowledge, and that's why 3DMJ has helped me so much with that because I've learned so much through the using the macronutrients, using the cardio. So for me, and it's interesting because I feel like I have the vantage point on a lot of the power lifters that have not been into the bodybuilding and stuff, because they have a lot of them have a really hard time with the making weight part of it. So for me, usually about 4 weeks out from a powerlifting prep, I usually start regulating my macros. And the thing is, you don't want to be in a hard deficit for a powerlifting meet because you're going to lose your leverage. So basically, if you can stay at a maintenance throughout the entire prep, and usually the prep for me is about 8 to 12 weeks. If you can stay at a maintenance and stay within a body weight that's usually about 5 pounds, 5 to 10 pounds from what your weight is. So for instance, I'm usually around usually right around 84, 85 keys. And I have to make weight, and that's usually about that's usually about 8 weeks out. So usually I just have to go from 84 to 85 kilos down to 83 kg. So it's really not that hard for me. And usually what I'll do is just kind of refine my macros and start eating more micronutrient dense, but still staying close to a maintenance, if not just slightly under a maintenance. And that's usually that's just the best approach, because what you'll see a lot of powerlifters do is usually about a week out, they will try to lose anywhere between 5 to 10 pounds, usually a week out or within a day. And what they'll do is they'll do water cuts or they'll do sauna. Or they'll go into sauna. So what happens is getting ready for those, and then they'll just try to load up right before that meet. And they lose a lot of leverage.
How much could you how long would you get between the weigh-in and the actual time you're lifting?
So that is the interesting thing that I'm learning this year, is that, between the weigh-in and lifting can be anywhere from 1 hour to 4 hours. And I've even seen, you just never know how it turns out. They usually weigh you. And I mean, the last one that I did, the line was wrapped around the building, and lifting literally started. I think the weigh-in was around 8 a.m. and I think lifting started around 8:45. So that goes to show, if you do a hard cut, if you do a really hard cut and you don't have time to refeed and carb up, then you're gonna lose all kinds of leverage, because you're just not gonna have any strength in you. So that's really it. As far as sleep goes, you just try to get as much damn sleep as you possibly can. You just try to get, you maximize it, man. I always tell people 6 to 8 hours a day is optimal. But if those that know me very well and very closely, sleep is definitely the Achilles of my training. I'm a low sleeper. Just based on work life schedule. I'm a low sleeper.
Do you find having a son, does that
Yeah.
makes sleeping a little harder. Just because,
Oh,
like,
definitely, man.
yeah, 'cause I'm
Most
not sure how old he is or anything, but I've basically everything you hear about parenthood is the first year, like, you don't get any sleep, like that kind of
Oh
thing.
man, the first year, it never really stops, man.
Yeah.
I mean, literally after this podcast, man, I'm gonna be in the pool playing basketball with mine, and that's gonna zap me, man. And he's still gonna be full of energy, so it never really stops. And then, I mean, just the responsibilities that you have as a parent, man. So, like I said, you just try to get as much sleep, and the thing that doesn't get talked about much, and when you get into the sport, you find out is like AJ said, you try not to leave any stone unturned.
Yeah.
But what you'll find out is everybody. I remember Alberto used to tell me about this. The same thing too is even at the elite level, everybody has a variable that they're battling with, and some people won't tell you. Some people it's a pride thing. Some people will not tell you. They'll say, "Hey, I did everything that I could. I didn't miss a beat."
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's the grind. It's something that you love, and they don't call it the grind for no reason. It definitely is. You are definitely challenging yourself at every level. So, and like I said, for me, the hardest thing in any prep for me is just to get as much sleep as I can. And over the years, I've done better. But some people, their hardest part is the dieting part. That's one of the easiest parts for me. Yeah,
like eating enough calories for me, that is a mission. Like I can get in there, train hard. I could train for 5 hours if I had to, but you make me eat over 4,000 calories. Fuck that.
Right.
Like,
It just
God.
So it's and everybody has their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, like you said, the dieting part. For me, getting in the calories in the off season, it's simple.
A breeze,
I was talking to an elite powerlifter that just competed at the IPF Worlds, and he doesn't. I asked him, how much protein do you take in a day, and he says, I have no idea. I was like, wow.
Like, what?
And it's just crazy because, like I said, this is somebody at the highest level competing at the IPF Worlds. So that just lets you know that this guy is at the top level, and
he's not doing 100% of everything he's doing.
I can guarantee you
could always
that,
be more.
and he might. He's doing what he can with what he has. But that just goes to show that this guy has not even tapped into 100%.
Yeah, and he's still at the top level.
And he's still at the top level, and that's where coaching comes in because you have coaches that, and I'm fortunate because I have a coaching crew of 5 different people, that they're versed in all different things. But that's, you have some powerlifting coaches out there that will say, hey, I can program your lifts, I can program your trainings. When it comes to diet, you're gonna have to you're gonna have to figure it out on your own, or you're gonna have to get somebody that's more versed on the nutrition end. So that just varies. Fortunately, the nutrition end, 3DMJ has helped me so much with that,
Because they've definitely got it down. Like, they definitely know. Right. Because they've done bodybuilding. It's funny because, they've done bodybuilding. It's interesting because, Helms and Loomis, even Berto has experience with powerlifting, but they're very versed on powerlifting. And it's interesting because right now I'm working with Johnny Candido as far as powerlifting goes. But, and I never thought that I would get into powerlifting, but I always said that, once I get back with bodybuilding and Jeff Alberts and I get into that prep, I said I'm probably gonna get with Eric and we're probably gonna do some powerlifting structure and see where that goes. So that's gonna be fun, man. That's gonna be real fun. I'd probably we'll finish off here. What would be your number one piece of advice for someone who wants to become a power builder? They want to dabble in bodybuilding, they want to dabble in powerlifting. They're not sure when. Let's say the person has already been lifting for 2 years, pretty suboptimally, and they've just been sort of going through the motions quite a lot. What would be your advice for them to get them to the highest level that they can possibly be at in both sports?
Okay. So my advice to them would be to be 100% sure that they have a base built. If they do feel like, and when I say a base built as far as you can call it bodybuilding, you can call it what I mean by a base is
you know, if their focus is primarily squat, bench, and deadlift, and no accessories, then they need to take some steps back and go back to the drawing board and maybe get coaching, get some programming, and build a solid base. And then start working more into those compound lifts. Being that, you know, so I always say that, you know, if you're going to get into powerlifting and you just want to completely bypass bodybuilding, what you'll find is a lot of power lifters were just weightlifters. They just loved lifting weights before they got into powerlifting. So they weren't just, you know, a guy that has never picked up any weights before. That, you know, they usually have a pretty good base, a pretty solid foundation. So what I would say is, you know, if you want to get a dose of both, and you really want to be what you call a power builder, I would say that it would start with bodybuilding, whether that's bodybuilding in competition or just a bodybuilding type structure training, and build that base, that solid foundation where, you know, so you don't want to go into a squat saying that, you know, I have no strength in my hamstrings. I have shitty ass hamstrings that are weak as shit, but now I want to squat a 1 rep max. Well, you know, it's going to be really hard to steady that load. You know, so I would definitely say it's just to build that base and just, you know, be patient, man. And, you know, 2 years might seem like a long time for some, but for us, 2 years is,
it's like,
man, that's 2
bulk.
years
that's
flies by, and that's 2 years is just one
like,
week for us.
I've probably only been lifting for like 3 years now. That's probably like
3 years.
Still like, and I consider myself a noob. Like, I'm still like, and some people that I like know like around me that go to my gym are like, wow, James, you know everything about the gym. But then like, literally, I think I'm still like, I still know so little, because like, then like it's sort of like all relative, right? Compared to the guy who's just walked in the gym, I know a lot. But then compared to the person like you or like anyone at 3DMJ, it's like I am just a mere mortal. like it's like everyone,
and you know, and that mindset that you just said, 10 years from now, to be able to still say that definitely says a lot about you, because you said you still feel like a noob and there's still so much to be learned. But, you know, I've been training now for, let's say, about 10 years, I would say 9 years consistently with structure, about 17 years if you add in athletics and everything else. And I still go in there every single time, and I feel like it's a new day. I'm brand new at this, and it's, you know, it's and that's what keeps you. It keeps you just constantly progressing, man. You know,
and sort of like not dismissing. Oh no, I must be at my genetic peak. Like, I can't believe when I thought that.
Right.
Like, oh my god, I still cringe at myself thinking that I was like done. Oh my god, no, because I think I placed too much emphasis on steroids must do everything, blah blah blah. But it's like I just didn't, as you said, I didn't have a base built. I was still in the process of building that base, and I just
right. And another thing I'd add to that is, you know, a base still includes compounds. You know, it still includes the compound lifts. You know, ever since getting with 3DMJ, you know, they introduced me to the big three. Prior to that, you know, I'd be lucky if I deadlifted once a month, you know, but, you know, since 2013, I've been doing the compounds 2 times a week. You know, I'll do a hypertrophy phase. I'll do a power phase with the lower reps, you know, so it's a lot different than with the powerlifting, being that now, you know, I might go into the gym and I might just have squats, deadlifts, and let's say some pause deadlifts, and then I'm done. But I still have my accessory days in there, you know. And I always tell people that reach out to me on the inbox, on the social media and stuff like that. I always tell them, like, man, those accessory days are still very, very, very important, because there's no way that you would see me deadlifting 716 pounds without you know, a lot of accessories going on behind the scenes.
You sort of like, you just see the big three, but you don't get to see the whole sort of package. Where can people find you online, and where can people find your Instagram, your social media, anything else, anything that you'd like to plug? Just chuck it in now.
Okay. You can find me on Instagram. I think, what is it? _VWill. I'm also on Facebook, Vernon Williams Jr. That's where I'm at right now, man.
Sweet.
That's where I'm at. That's the easiest way to access me.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Student Side Hustle. I would appreciate so much if you would leave a review if you'd like to hear more of what I'm saying. Then I would love if you would follow me on Instagram or check out my other social media, all linked in the show notes. And again, I would just like to say thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful evening and study hard.